Prepare yourself for Earthling Entertainment with your hosts, Joe and Ryan.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Earthling Entertainment with Joe Wakefield and Ryan Lang.
Hey, I'm Joe Wakefield.
I'm Ryan Lang.
Hey, guys, guess what? We're Earthling Entertainment. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, what we do here is a little bit of the spooky, a little bit of the creepy. Sometimes it's cryptozoology or monsters or hauntings or ghosts. Something's different every week, but it's always spooky. That is followed by a segment we like to call Ryan's Disclosure Discussion. That one's all about aliens.
I'm just asking questions. We talk about UFO sightings, UFO stories, what the government's released, what they've been requested to release. Today looks like we're going to be talk about a fear of an ET invasion back during the Cold War.
Ooh, that's going to be a good one. And then the latter half of our show is dedicated to the entertainment industry. Sometimes we cover celebrity deaths. We usually have headlines. Maybe we'll do a trivia game. We have some interviews coming up in future episodes. So, hey, it's always fun and it's always entertainment. And those two things together make what we do here, Earthling Entertainment. Welcome.
Hell yeah.
Welcome. So, what I want to say first, what I want to talk about first is we got to go to Motor City Comic-Con this weekend. And
We sure did.
I'm a huge fan of conventions, Ryan. That was your first convention?
That was my first of like a Comic-Con, like of something of that scale for sure. I've been to like the Horror Con, whatever that was called, Motor City Nightmare.
Motor City Nightmares, which is a great show, by the way.
And that was good, but that was a lot smaller scale. This was packed.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's been going on since '89, so it's a big deal. And their symbol is like, it's an MC3. And it took me forever to figure out why there was a 3, because I'm like, it's been around since 1989. Why is there a 3? It's because City Comic-Con. It's 3 C's. MC3. See?
Clever.
Comic-Con. Yeah.
Pretty clever.
Yeah. But what were your first like, how did you feel? Like, the cosplay, what stood out to you?
I definitely was there I like the costumes. Everybody was dressed up. I saw a lot of cool ones. There was Darth Vader, lots of stormtroopers about.
I did expect to see more vault dwellers, like more people from the Fallout gear.
I saw a few.
I saw 1 or 2 for sure. I just expected more. There was one really good Jesus.
Yep, I saw Jesus. There were a lot of Jokers.
Yeah. There's one in every crowd. It's kind of like there's always at least one person as Waldo.
I saw a couple dressed as the box that said Fragile and the leg lamp.
I did see the leg lamp.
I saw those two. They were hilarious.
Yeah. And I respect the cosplayers who are like making their costume. Don't misunderstand. I love a spandex outfit as much as the next guy, but that doesn't really feel like cosplay to me. That feels like, the least amount of work ever. Like even Jason Voorhees, when you wear just the jumpsuit, you got to at least get the mask. I don't know. I saw a fembot, like a straight up Austin Powers fembot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I saw so many. I saw Revan, who's the lead character from the game I always talk about,
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
So what is that? Remind me again. It's the Old Republic, thousands of years before Star Wars, and it's a bad guy?
It could go either way. He originally was a bad guy, and then, spoiler alert, you find out that you are Revan, and it obviously goes by whatever you decide to do. Either you decide to be good or bad.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, well, I'm here for it. You know what else they had there is, I'm 37 years old. I know I'm an adult man, but sometimes I still like my fandom, and I was a huge fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And they had a life-size Appa that you could, and that's the flying bison that he rides.
Yeah.
They had a life-size Appa that you could pay $20, and I did, to go on its back and to take a picture riding Appa. And I'm gonna post it on our Facebook group because you know what? It's excellent, Ryan.
It is excellent.
I got a
Joe.
huge smile on my face like a goof, and I regret nothing.
No regrets, dude.
No regrets.
And it was funny. So, and all the celebrities were there. And one that I really wanted to see was, forgive me if I do his name wrong, Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes, I think Gus from Breaking Bad, right?
And Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon
from The Mandalorian. So we're there, and I was like, I just want to see him real quick. Like, I don't want to pay, wait in line, nothing like that. So I'm like, I just want to see him, guys. So real quick, I run away from you guys, and I see this break in the crowd, right? And I go to run
because
up
they have this little the section where you can go to get their autographs. That's kind of like a little cattle call where you have a line that goes back and forth in front of them. So it's kind of hard to see through the crowd.
So I go to run up because I figure, oh, he's probably sitting at the table, to the left in front of the crowd.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
That's what I assumed. And I'm like, maybe I can just run up to the front, get a look, and then leave. I go to run up. He's standing right there. Like,
just looking at you.
Because I ran up, and I had to stop myself, and he looks right into my eyes, dude.
Yeah.
And I just, as a weird reaction, I, put my hand, on my chest, oh, oh, shit.
Yeah.
As I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, am I going to get in trouble? Am I, in a security area or something?
Yeah.
And then he just nods his head up at me.
Yeah, just gives you a little sup.
Yeah, gives me a sup nod, the up nod. And I just gave it back, and I just turned around and just kind of melted a little bit.
I will go now, sir. Thank you for your acknowledgement.
I just think about the Mandalorian. Did you just tell me that Moff Gideon killed his own men? They gotta, prove the badge, dude, so he's evil as shit. So it was
his character, yeah.
And he was in The Boys. He was the leader of that thing.
Well, he's in a lot of stuff. I always love him. He's got that weird voice. It's been recently announced because everyone always wanted him to play the new Charles Xavier. Even he mentioned that Charles Xavier Magneto would be kind of cool. But long story short, he has been cast in the MCU. We don't know what he's going to be. He has confirmed, though, it is not Charles Xavier. But he will be joining the MCU.
He's got to be a bad guy. He makes such a good bad guy.
He does make good bad guys. That is for sure. I mean, I saw some celebrities there, too, obviously. I love meeting, I love getting things in my library signed. So signed. I went and saw Felicia Day. She's if you don't know, she's an actress and considered by many as the queen of nerds. She did a lot of stuff with Joss Whedon. She did Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. She was in episodes of Eureka. Originally, she had her own show called The Guild. Since then was in Dollhouse, a bunch of shows. I'm pretty sure she was in The Magicians. And they did a Dragon Age movie that was I think it was a fan film, and it was 45 minutes. No, it was an hour and a half, and she played in that. I mean, she's just known as the internet queen of nerds. In fact, her autobiography is called You're Never Too Weird on the Internet.
Huh.
Yeah. So I got her to sign that. It's from the Wakefield. I had her to sign to the Wakefields, my family, and my wife and my son, Paradox, because my son is the coolest name ever. We got a picture with her, and I didn't mention to her. My wife brought this up to me, Lizzie. She said, we didn't tell her his name. She would have got such a kick out of it. She's such a big nerd. So that was a little sad.
Well, you get a little starstruck. It's hard not to. Cause I remember we were walking and we look over and I'm like, there's Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
My girlfriend pointed it out. She's just like, oh, look, Helen Hunt. I'm like, it sure is. Holy crap.
It is, right? And then you're just like, oh, they're just sitting there, and it's an average, Heather Graham was just like, oh, look, it's Heather Graham.
I was going to mention Heather Graham. We walked by and we saw her, and she was having an interaction with a fan, and she looked generally sweet. She was smiling. She looked nice. She
looked like a very fine human being. And it's funny because I actually have worked with a few people on set and actually interacted. I did an interview with Pete Plazik and Noel Fisher, which were the 2014 Ninja Turtles. And even them, I'm sitting next to them just interacting, and you still get starstruck. So I don't know how long you have to work with famous people before you don't. But even I, because my wife and I brought our baby to get a photo with William Shatner. Come on, Captain Kirk.
That's right.
And so we were doing that, and you're still just like, hi, I saw you on the television a lot when I was a kid.
I hear even actors, they go through it themselves when they work with, people they haven't worked with before.
Or people that they respect a great deal.
Of course. Yeah, could you imagine, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because anytime there's these big meet and greets, you usually get a moment. And then the more famous and popular they are, you get less than that. Because William Shatner had 3 groups. Each group had, I don't know, 50 to 100 people. And it's funny because each one of those, it's his autograph or getting a photo with him is north of $100, like most big people at these conventions. So you look at that and you're like, God, they're making so much money doing this. And it's just astounding. And then you're like, oh, right. Though that's a lot of people. This guy's 93. If you get that many people come by, you can get sick, right? So they came out and they're like, no touching. There's a no touching policy for William Shatner. And at first you're like, that's weird, but then you start thinking about it. You're like, yeah,
That makes sense.
I don't need 200 people touching my shoulder. It takes one person to have COVID or something.
It's totally true. Honestly, no, that makes sense. And the picture still looks great.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. And that was the only professional photo I buy because those are the expensive ones. If you go up to the table to get an autograph, you could usually get a selfie for like, $40 or whatever, depending on who it is. I got Amy Jo Johnson, the original Pink Power Rangers autograph. She signed the comic book that she wrote recently called The Return. And it's, very good. I guess that's
cool.
all I really got to say. What were more of your comic book stuff?
Other than that-
Convention stuff.
Yeah, other than that, it was cool walking around. Obviously, just people watching all the cosplay, like we said. And they had a bunch of vendors, which were really cool. A lot of great artwork. A lot of the artists were there themselves who did the artwork. My girlfriend bought herself a piece from an artist that was there. And
What
he
was
said,
the piece of?
It was Freddy Krueger. It was like really cool,
Nice.
and it was like in the style of like a comic book cover.
That's awesome. Here, I got a piece. Hold on. You're gonna fill in the time. I'm gonna go grab it.
You do your thing. And other than that, ooh, Joe got the Mothman. Very cool. I like that a lot. Oh, and a pug, Ghostbuster with a little pug ghost Slimer. Very, very nice. So Joe got himself a nice piece there.
The problem is I don't have much more wall room.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, so I got that Fallout mystery box, and I mean it was cool. I'll admit, like you said, like the mystery is more cool than what's inside. I mean, I
it's like Loot Crate. You get a box full of a bunch of things, and sometimes it's like, here's a book of matches, or here's a water bottle, or here's an air freshener, or here's a small stuffy, something like that.
It had basically a lot of like the little action figurines of the little mini Pit Boys, for the different ones, like the ninja perk, or I got the melee perk.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
as
They
a
had little
pin.
action figures of that.
Yeah, and I have like a pin of the melee perk with the baseball bat and the baseball hat.
All right, so Fallout, the video game franchise, because they have a little cartoon character who kind of represents their information that they give to the player, that lends itself very well to merchandising.
It's brilliant, right? And I'm guessing that's what the randomness is, right? So I'm sure that someone else probably got different perks.
Exactly. Like there's a bunch more pins, but these ones, this one, he's holding up a gun and it's the small arms perk.
And it also had socks
Ooh.
and a pen.
And a pen.
A pen.
You're a wild man. It was only like $60 though for all that, right?
I was gonna say yeah, and it had like a bunch of other stuff I'm not mentioning. It just I can't remember. It had a bunch of knickknacks. It was cool.
It is cool. All right, guys. So I wanted to announce that sometime within the next year, I can't say when, but within the next year, we are going to have a booth at a convention. We haven't decided what show yet, and we have to work out a lot of the details. That's why I say within the next year, but it's happening. And when it does, we're going to ask you all to come on and say hi. But until then, this was a great convention.
It was good. I had fun. I'll admit, I think I would have had more fun had I really now I know to time it out a little bit. Like if I wanted to meet a celebrity, I probably would show up like right at the time that I'd have to be there. And I think I'd show up later.
Well, like the thing is, they're only there signing autographs or doing photos at certain times, because when you pay for a professional photo, you get a time slot, and they're there signing autographs at like a certain time window, and it's because they have to accommodate doing the panels that they're doing, because they go and they talk to everybody and have different events and things like that.
Right. And yeah, so that's what I think. I think I would have enjoyed myself going later because I would have liked to have been there. I had to take off a little early. I had my kids, but because we got there around noon, and we left I think about 2:30, 3 o'clock. So we stayed for like a couple few hours. I would have rather have stayed. I wanted to be there at 5:30. They had an adult costume contest.
Sure.
And I kind of wanted to see that because, like I said, honestly, the cosplay was my favorite thing.
Cosplay is always fun. I love the dedication to that. I've yet to see. I've been to so many. I've been to WonderCon. I've been to LA Comic Con. I've been to Motor City Comic Con. I went to one in Chicago. I've been to all these ones. I've never done a cosplay contest because for some reason or another, we had to go before them. Because I've never like stayed the night at a hotel to go to a convention
Right.
because I've always just lived in enough places where I got to go to those conventions. I lived in Chicago. I lived in LA. You know what I mean?
And now Detroit.
Yeah.
Novi's not that far.
Yeah, that's true.
And but no, I would definitely next time. I hope they have more people that I would like to see, and if I get a chance to go, I will. I'll definitely schedule that and plan to be there later because I would like to see the costume contest and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe I would.
I
like
mean,
to
that's why people buy more than one day. To be
Yeah,
honest,
that's what makes sense because there's so much. There's so much to do. There's like 100 different vendors, probably more. It's crazy.
Well, guys, that was a little bit about our weekend, but now we're going to jump into our first official segment of the show, which we like to call
Spooky stuff.
The vampire.
like the actual vampire.
The actual vampire,
Oh
Joe.
my God, it's been so long. I can't believe we're covering this. No, I'm kidding. I wrote the notes. Continue.
In popular legend, a creature, often fanged, that preys upon humans, generally by consuming their blood.
Num 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 blood.
Vampires have been featured in folklore and fiction of various cultures for hundreds of years, predominantly in Europe, although belief in them has waned in modern times.
It's true. It's because of Twilight.
I was going to say I blame Twilight. Because there is a long history of walking corpses and blood-sucking ghouls in folklore, it is difficult to pin down a distinct set of characteristics consistently attributed only to vampires. Central to vampire myth is the consumption of human blood.
Num 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 blood.
Or other essence, such as bodily fluids or psychic energy.
Num 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 num. What?
Bodily fluids. Additionally,
Psychic energy.
Yummy.
Tasty.
Additionally, vampires usually have sharp fangs or teeth with which to facilitate the task of feeding. In most depictions, vampires are undead, that is to say, having been somehow revived after death, and many are said to rise nightly from their graves or coffins, often necessarily containing their native soil.
I always liked that, where it's like they actually have to have like the dirt from like their resting place, whether it's not the soil from their country, it's like the dirt that which they were originally buried in.
I do like that as well. Vampires are typically said to be of pale skin and range in appearance from grotesque to preternaturally
Beautiful.
depending on the tale.
That vampire's sexy.
Let's face
Yeah,
it.
they're either ugly monsters or the hottest thing ever.
Yes. Another frequently cited physical characteristic is the inability to cast a reflection or shadow, which often translates into an inability to be photographed or recorded on film.
Yeah.
A person may become a vampire in a variety of ways.
Actually, that would be an interesting premise for a movie. Think about it, right? Like everyone's got cell phones now. So people just start noticing that there's people that aren't showing up in their random viral videos. And it turns out that those people are vampires. They're living amongst us. They can't hide anymore because of TikTok.
And you could just do tons of like Easter eggs like all throughout the film until the big drop. And then if you watch back, you'll notice that there's a bunch of people missing.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it. All right. We gotta think of a really corny, catchy name, and then we might have a movie, Ryan. We're gonna go to pitch it to Hollywood.
We'll have to work on that.
Yeah. Actually, it is a fun premise.
The most common way to become a vampire is to be bitten by a vampire. Other methods include sorcery, committing suicide, contagion.
The committing suicide's got to be the religious thing, right? Like it's such a sin to commit suicide he turned into a vampire. Because I'm pretty sure they said Lilith, Adam's first wife before Eve, she was the first vampire or the first demon because she didn't obey God and Adam.
I didn't know that. No, I've never even heard.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Never mind. Continue.
All right,
It's this whole thing we can talk about later.
Here's my favorite. Another way to become a vampire is having a cat jump over a person's corpse.
Well, that's just science, Ryan.
That is just science. Cats do that. I've seen it. Some people believe that babies born with teeth or on Christmas or in between Christmas and Epiphany were predisposed to becoming vampires.
Ah, it's a nice baby, Johnny. You did well. You did good. But he was born on Christmas, so you better keep him away from vampires.
Where's the garbage
He's
can?
predisposed. He's going to turn into a vampire, you know.
Like, give me some garlic.
We're going to have garlic in our... Yeah, we're going to have garlic at our Christmas dinner.
Yes, put it in the bottle. Put it in the bottle. While vampires usually do not die of disease or other normal human afflictions,
Usually.
and they are indeed often said to have faster than normal healing capabilities, there are various methods for their destruction. The most popular of those include a wooden stake through the heart, fire, decapitation, and exposure to sunlight. Vampires are often depicted as being repelled by garlic, running water, or Christian implements such as crucifixes and holy water.
I always like the running water. Like, if you run across the stream, a vampire can't follow you. That would be really annoying. Like, as a vampire, you would have to, like, get the geography of your area before moving there. Be like, nah, we are not going to live in Minnesota. We are going to starve. We can't walk 5 fucking feet without getting stopped from a little stream.
That's right. And why does this make me think that Jason Voorhees is a vampire?
Ooh.
Because he was afraid. I mean, I get it. He kind of drowned in water, but he didn't, right? He lived, sort of. But
that would be like, Friday the 13th, part, 58. He takes off the mask and he has vampire teeth, and everyone's like, what? He jumped the shark. What are you doing?
Because I believe it was first depicted in the sewers in Jason Takes Manhattan when she realized that he wouldn't cross the waterfall. And then Freddy figured that shit out in a dream.
I think it only happened in Freddy vs. Jason is what you're referring to. Is Jason not loving water, being afraid of water, was actually only shown in that one. But Jason Takes Manhattan.
I thought that it was shown.
No, what you're thinking of is that's kind of what kills him and he's in the sewer and he gets like hit with a wave of toxic waste and it's water.
Oh,
and he looks at
right.
the camera and he's like, he sounds like a little boy and he's like, mommy,
That's
or something.
right. I haven't seen that in so long. All right, my bad. In some stories, vampires may enter a home only if they have been invited. And in others, they may be distracted by the scattering of objects, such as seeds or grains, that they are compelled to count.
Yeah, that's why I have a pocket full of rice all the time. It's not just because I get hungry.
Pocket rice.
Pocket rice.
Thereby enabling.
That's fucking hilarious. I really want to have a vampire situation where someone's just like, pocket rice, and runs away.
Like, son of a bitch. He's got to count them.
I mean, they kind of did that in What We Do in the Shadows, but no one screamed pocket rice.
Oh my God, I'm ridiculous. I never. One. That's why he has to count.
Yeah, so that's why he's the count.
In
Sesame Street.
I didn't even think about the fact about that myth that vampires were, because you don't often see that in a movie. It's kind of a silly thing.
Well, that's why you don't often see it in a movie.
Right, yeah. So it's like I didn't even think about that folklore. So that makes a lot of sense that he's the count.
In Sesame Street, yes.
Wow, I feel silly.
We've covered a lot of things at this moment.
Thereby, that may enable for you to escape by having pocket rice.
Pocket rice.
Creatures with vampiric characteristics have appeared at least as far back as ancient Greece, where stories were told of creatures that attacked people in their sleep and drained their bodily fluids.
Blood.
Tales of walking corpses that drank the blood of the living, a modern understanding of infectious diseases. Of the blood of the living and spread plague flourished in medieval Europe in the times of disease, and people lacking a modern understanding of infectious disease came to believe that those who became vampires preyed first upon their own families.
Yeah, right. So I get accused of being a vampire because my wife's got the flu, and now my kids got the flu, and they think that I'm slowly feeding off the family before I fleet out to the night. So they drag me out in the middle of the public square and execute me. Hooray! History!
And they say that the Black Plague was spread by
fleas.
Fleas
on the back of mice.
Which were on the back of mice, and therefore homely women who had cats were surviving because the cats would kill the rats, and the women would not get the plague, and everybody that would say witch.
Huh? Never heard that one. That's interesting.
Yeah, I did read that somewhere. I don't know where, but I thought that was interesting.
Huh? Interesting. Yeah, I like that one.
Research from the 20th and 21st centuries,
but not the 23rd. Sorry.
Indeed, has posited that the characteristics associated with vampires can be traced back to certain diseases, such as polyphyria, which makes one sensitive to sunlight, tuberculosis, which can cause wasting, pellagra, a disease that thins the skin, and rabies, which causes the biting and general sensitivities that could lead to repulsion by light or garlic.
That is all interesting because if you had the one that would make you have thin skin, you'd see the veins and stuff in there, and that could be real creepy. And people weren't exactly, fit. A lot of people were skinny and starving, so you probably see the bones easier. And yeah, I could see why you'd be like, "Oh my God, this guy's dead."
And you couldn't go out in the sun, so you'd be pale as hell.
Yeah, well, there's like, can you imagine if you had just the bad combination of all of those things? You're like,
No.
oh God.
That would suck. Like at that point, just become a freak show, make some money, just be like, look at me.
Yeah.
My life is terrible. Like,
My life is terrible. Give me money.
pretty much, right? Isn't that pretty much how that went?
I think it had more to do with I have a hard life. No one will accept me. This is the only thing I can do for money because normal jobs I get ridiculed. But yes,
This
Yes.
is me. Whoa.
are you doing the
Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman? I actually liked that movie.
I loved that
It
movie.
was not accurate at all to history.
No, it was not, but I liked the
liked
songs.
it. It was good. Yeah. All right. Well
I
done.
really like the song.
Well done,
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Vampire myths were especially popular in Eastern Europe, and the word vampire most likely originates from that region. Digging up the bodies of suspected vampires was practiced in many cultures throughout Europe, and it is thought that the natural characteristics of decomposition, such as receding gums and the appearance of growing hair and fingernails, reinforce the belief that corpses were in fact continuing some manner of life after death. Also, possibly contributing to this belief was the pronouncement of death for people who were not dead. Because of the constraints of medical diagnosis at the time, people who were very ill or sometimes even very drunk and in a coma or in shock were thought dead and later miraculously recovered, sometimes too late to prevent their burial.
That sucks.
No, that is
Well, yeah, I mean, I get
Like
it.
your-
Like
your
when, if
biggest
you're
fear,
if you're
right?
very sick and then they think you're dead and they bury you. But if you imagine if you were just drunk, like you're having a bad enough bender, and then you wake up buried alive because you drank so much, Ryan, that you blacked out, peed in a toy box, and then wandered off and got buried alive.
I could see these things happening to me, Joe. I could see this. I think that maybe that was for a younger Ryan, but I could definitely have seen younger Ryan perhaps falling into such a fate.
I'm just saying that would be a bad hangover.
But that's like the biggest fear, right? Like the buried alive, like the misdiagnosis of death.
Oof.
That is.
Luckily, we can detect death a lot better these days.
I fell down a rabbit hole of that like a while back. There's really, to be fair, there's not that many stories of it. But to be fair, like how many times do they dig up a coffin and they see those fingernails on the back of the coffin lid?
Yeah, well, do you remember the bell? They would put basically a string
Yes.
that led all the way down. You could ring a bell if you were in a coffin and still alive, and that's where the saying "Saved by the Bell" comes from.
Yep, and Dead Ringer.
Oh, nice.
And it was a very famous because it was after the one big thing where it was, I forget who it was. I want to say it was like a husband. His wife had died, and he's like, I swear to God, blah, blah, blah. We got to dig her up. I swear she's still alive. They dug her up, and to their horror, she obviously was alive at one point. She was dead then, but there was scratches all of her fingernails were gone. And
Oof.
that was the big story.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, and that started all the ringer bells. And I believe, if my research was correct, like I said, I fell down this rabbit hole because it's a huge fear of mine, that literally no one ever had a ringer go off. But then again, did the servant really stay there all night? Was he not drunk and fall asleep? Maybe you did ring and they didn't hear you.
I don't know.
You
man.
know what I mean? Who knows? But like I said, as far as my research said, no one rang that bell. That never happened.
You don't really have to worry about it happening anymore because now they embalm you before you get buried, and
Yes.
if you're embalmed, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty dead.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm dead.
Tell me more about vampires.
Belief in vampires led to such rituals as staking corpses through the heart before they were buried.
Num 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 steak.
I like steak. Did you say steak?
Yeah.
Got me all excited.
Oh my God. Is that a Deuce Bigelow male gigolo reference?
100%.
Excellent. All right. Now we're back to wooden stakes and stabbing through vampires' hearts. Continue.
In some cultures, the dead were buried face down so that you have a place to park your bike. That's Patch Adams, Rob Williams.
Oh my gosh.
were buried face down to prevent them from finding their way out of the graves. Oh yeah, that'll stop them.
They just kept trying to dig out and found themselves in the core of the earth and burnt up.
It's like, I could have just turned around. Well, son of a...
Yeah.
Well, I'll be.
Like, I thought a Maya was a bit excessive.
I thought it was a bit drafty. Sorry. Why am I referencing so much? Anyways, the modern incarnation of vampire myth seems to have stemmed largely from Gothic European literature from the 18th and 19th centuries. But about the time vampire hysteria was peaking in Europe, vampiric figures appeared in 18th century poetry. Later, vampire poems began appearing in English in the turn of the 19th century. Dracula is arguably the most important work of vampire fiction.
Yeah, that's fair.
The tale of the Transylvanian Count, who used supernatural abilities, including mind control and shape-shifting, to prey upon innocent victims, inspired countless works thereafter. Many popular vampire characteristics, such as methods of survival and destruction, vampires as aristocracy, and even vampires being of Eastern European origin.
All of that comes from Dracula and the Dracula myth, which makes sense, right? Because that is what you imagine. You imagine that Eastern European, like, like rich guy who has this big house and he's just like, I'm cursed to eat you. And I'm sexy.
Yeah, the popular novel was especially popular through its 1931 film adaptation starring Hungarian-born actor Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi. He was a great vampire. Do you ever watch any of those original horror movies, The Universe of Monsters? Yeah, I loved the Dracula one. That was good.
Yep, I like those. I really like the Frankenstein's my favorite, Bride of Frankenstein. But yeah, the Dracula's good. Wolfman is pretty campy, but it's I like the classic Creature from the Black Lagoon.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're the classic. You got to watch them, in my opinion, if you're going to be a horror fan. The novel itself is thought by some to have been inspired in part by the cruel acts of the 15th century prince Vlad III, Dracula of Transylvania, also known as Vlad the Impaler, and Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who was believed to have murdered dozens of young women during the 16th and 17th centuries in order to bathe in or possibly drink their blood as to preserve her own vitality.
We're going to have a whole episode about her one of these days.
Women of dark desires.
I take it a black metal band did a song about her?
Oh, yeah. Literally the band Bathory.
Ah, well, there you go.
And they are arguably like the first to really coin that original black metal sound. It was done by one dude named Corthon. Rest in peace.
I wish I had the button to like make the sound like The More You Know. Like, da-na-na.
Oh, we do need that.
Yeah, right? Exactly. There's a lot of times we could use that.
There's a lot of times we could go down that road. Dracula, in turn, inspired the film Nosferatu, which I have watched.
I love Nosferatu. There's another film about the making of Nosferatu starring John Malkovich, which is called, and Max Schreck is played by William Dafoe, and it's called Shadow of the Vampire.
Far
It's
out.
an industry flick and a vampire flick, just saying. But, Nosferatu, the original.
Yes, and it was the vampire which was first depicted as being vulnerable to sunlight. Other aspects of the movie, however, were so similar to Stoker's novel that his widow sued for copyright infringement, and many copies of the film were subsequently destroyed. For several decades, the vast variety of vampire fiction, whether on page or stage or screen, showed the influence of Dracula. Both the novel and its film version spawned several direct sequels and spin-offs, including the film Dracula's Daughter, 1936, and a number of Hammer films, including The Horror of Dracula, 1958, which starred Christopher Lee in the title role. I did see that one too.
Yeah, I like Christopher Lee played Dracula a lot. He has like 6 or 10 movies under his belt. And
Then maybe it was one of the other
where
ones.
he was playing Dracula. Yeah, it was a good run.
I know I've seen one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know which one. I think it was like in a film class.
That would actually make sense, yes.
Vampires became popular characters in pulp magazine and appeared in stories such as The Sherlock Holmes Tale, The Adventure of the Sussex Vampire, 1924. In 2009, the original author's great-grandnephew, Dr. Stoker, and Ian Holt published a sequel called Dracula, the undead, using notes and excisions from Dracula. In the 20th
That's kind of cool. That's kind of like how Frank Herbert's kid continued the Dune series. Although a lot of people don't consider that canon in the Dune universe, so I wonder if it's the same. I wonder if there's Dracula purists out there who are like, "Pff, we don't accept the Great Nephew's sequel."
maybe they're missing
God.
out because, people who really are into J.R.R. Tolkien, his kid kind of took his notes and continued a bit.
True, and I like that.
I was going to say, yeah, so I'm here for it. In the 20th century, vampires began to turn from being depicted as predominantly animalistic creatures and instead displayed a broader range of human characteristics. Ray Bradbury explored the sympathetic portrayal of what can be thought as monsters, including vampires, in Homecoming, 1946.
He really coined the "woe is me" vampire.
A story about a normal boy with a family of fantastical creatures. The popular American television soap opera Dark Shadows, 1966 to 1971, featured a lovelorn vampire, Barnabas Collins.
Yeah, they did a I should say remake. I don't know. They did a movie version that Tim Burton directed where Johnny Depp played the vampire. And a lot of people didn't like it because it definitely changed the tone of that original. But having not seen the original, I thought it was fun.
It was okay. It was funny.
It was silly.
And I liked the way it was shot. It was artsy.
Yeah, dark. Well, anything that Tim Burton shoots has this color palette and this aesthetic that you can't get away from. It's his style.
And that one actress that is the one that's like the love,
Eva Green.
the obsessed one, like she's nude in a lot of her films.
She is. Not sure what that has to do with it, but yes.
That's just what I'm like, oh yeah, she was in Sin City where she got nude. Oh yeah, she was in the 300 sequel where she got nude. Like,
okay, but she was in what is it? The Peculiar Children, whatever. Another Tim Burton movie, and she was not nude. There you
all
go.
right, hey, you know what?
I'm just saying.
That was for the male portion of the audience, I guess. Just a little tidbit there.
They have a site where you can look up where people are nude. It's called Mr. Skid, Ryan.
Was it like side boob?
Yeah.
Like, what was it with Family Guy where he's like, that's a nice side boob. Like, but anyways, back to vampires.
For those of you who don't know, Ryan is a heterosexual man.
Vampire fiction entered a new era. However, with the sympathetic portrayal by Anne Rice in her novel Interview with the Vampire, 1976. Wow, I didn't know it was that old.
Yeah. All their vampire movies or books were pretty old.
Rice's book introduced the world to vampires that were brooding and self-loathing and squabbled like humans.
They were little goth kids, people.
Conformists.
I'm going to drink some coffee.
Coffee. While Rice's vampires were more vulnerable emotionally than vampires previously had been, they were less vulnerable physically, susceptible only to daylight and fire and the death of the first of their kind, and possessed superhuman beauty, speed, and senses. Interview with a Vampire was highly popular and sparked a revival of vampire fiction that lasted into the 21st century, and subsequent vampire stories continued to use characteristics established by Rice. Rice herself wrote several more books in what subsequently became known as the Vampire Chronicles.
The Vampire Chronicles. I like that. They mostly followed Lestat, I believe.
Yeah, some of which were later adapted for film, such as Queen of the Damned, which was like the best soundtrack ever, in my opinion.
Fair enough. I really liked that movie, Queen of the Damned, because do you know that was a direct sequel to Interview with the Vampire? They just recasted everyone, so no one really knew it was a direct sequel.
No, I knew, because I had friends who read the books and were obsessed, so I knew.
Yeah, I think it was the only film she did, Aaliyah, the Queen of the Damned. Do you remember? She pop
died
star.
after filming, yeah, because they overloaded the plane. I literally, no joke, the pilot was like, we can't fit your crew and your stuff. She's like, we're going to have to do 2 trips. She said, F that, we're all doing it in 1 trip. And the pilot shouldn't have done it, but he did it, and they crashed.
Well, that's rough. That is really rough. And you know what? I think it was while they were filming, because I know they didn't get everything they wanted from her.
That's right. They got the brother to be a body double.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize that. I guess they must have been twins or something.
I could be wrong, but I remember hearing that. But that's like back when the movie came out. That's a memory.
It was like 2003.
Scraping out of my memory, so I could be wrong, but I remember hearing that.
Huh. The more you know. See, we need that button.
Right, and I still listen to Queen of the Damn soundtrack. I mean,
Well, Jonathan Davis did it all.
well, yeah, and he wrote it all and stuff like that, and he performed it all in the
Jonathan
movie.
Davis of Korn, right?
Correct, and he did it in the movie. So all the songs were sang by Jonathan Davis in the movie, but for the soundtrack, he sang none of it. All the soundtrack, he got guest stars. Like he got Chester Bennington from Linkin Park. He got David Draymond from Disturbed to do Forsaken. He brought in different singers. The dude from Static X, Wayne Static.
That's an interesting thing. Like, I think it'd be cool if they released 2 versions of the album because I'd love to see his from the movie. But I could see why. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. I like it.
You just have to watch the movie. The vampire as a misunderstood romantic hero picked up steam in the later part of the 20th century, particularly in the United States. In 1978, Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough began publishing her series of Count Saint Germain books, the main character of which is a vampire of moral character, whose bite is an erotic experience.
Woo!
In many tales, vampires are characterized as promiscuous,
Woo!
their appetite for human blood paralleling their
Sexual appetite.
their sexual appetite. In 1991, Laurie Herder published Obsession, one of the first vampire novels to be categorized as romance rather than science fiction, fantasy, or horror.
Look, it's got a vampire in it, but it's not going to scare you. It's going to make you hard.
Gonna get you harder. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a television show in which the title character has a star-crossed romance with a vampire, aired from 1997 to 2003. Angel, the vampire with a soul, and the love interest of Buffy the Vampire Slayer's title character, became the star of his own spin-off television series, in which he acts as a private detective from 1999 until 2004.
I really like that one, but they ended that series with a weird cliffhanger, so I didn't appreciate that. But I did like that show.
Yeah, I honestly never heard of it. Vampire romances also appeared in the steamy HBO television series True Blood, based on Charlaine Harris's Sookie Stackhouse book series.
Yeah, they did a lot of that. I don't know how much of the show is actually based on the book series or if they were just like, they take the setup of the first book and then just went off and did their own thing. I never watched that show.
I've seen
heard
clips.
I heard it was good, but I also heard it was like, I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was for me. It seems like they focused too much on the romance aspect, which is, I get it. That's what that show is. But you know me, I like even Buffy the Vampire Slayer, granted I was younger, but at least it was kind of action based, you know, the end of the world, we got to kill a monster. I was here for it. It wasn't just like, oh, I don't want to fuck that vampire anymore. Now I want to fuck that vampire. Darn it.
Decisions.
Gosh dang it. All these ripped vampires hanging around.
Invite the right one in.
Oh,
That's another vampire movie.
It is, and they're going to talk about it in this.
Really?
Yeah.
See? Fingers on the pulse, Joe.
Fingers on the pulse. You've earned my respect this episode. So see if you could continue on the next one.
I will continue, Joe. Vampire romance for teens gained popularity at the end of the 20th century and beginning of the 21st, with books such as The Vampire Diaries by L.J. Smith. The Twilight Saga, with its high school romance and vampires that sparkle in the sun rather than bursting into flames, became a cultural sensation.
You know, that really was the big problem with me. Like, I could get down with making a romance vampires, but the whole, like, we have to hide from the sunlight because we reflect light in a sparkly way and it gives us away. Yeah, that bothered me.
But it ensured a vampire trend for years to come.
That's true.
And I remember it became a funny thing to be, what were you, Team Edward or what's his name? Like, I remember everybody was doing that.
Yeah, I don't
And
rember either.
I don't remember.
Jacob.
There you go,
As
Jacob or
Edward
Edward.
and Jacob, yeah.
I believe most people said the werewolf, Jacob.
Dude, you know what's funny is there's a few shows I've watched recently where the Gen Z kid is just like, oh my God, Mom, you're watching that really old movie, Twilight. And I was like, oh, does that mean I'm really old now? No.
But I think the one thing that threw me off at Twilight was, to me, the atmosphere, the feel of the movie felt like I was watching a soap opera.
Well, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a 5-part soap opera.
Yeah, and it was just weird. It was. I don't know.
It didn't work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all film is subjective, and it definitely worked for a lot of people. It was one of the biggest movies franchise that were. I mean, it was part of the whole big young adult thing that we did with Hunger Games and Maze Runner and all that other stuff. So but that one I agree. That one wasn't for me.
So vampire relationships of a different sort were explored in the novel Let den Rate, in 2004, Let the Right One In, by John Alvide Lindqvist, in which the main characters are a perpetually childlike vampire and a young boy she befriends and helps fend off bullies. The book was adapted for film in Sweden in 2008 and in the United States as Let Me In 2010, which I heard wasn't as good. That's just what I heard.
I thought it was really good. Chloe Moretz played the vampire in that one. Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah.
Hit girl.
Yes. Vampires also enjoyed popularity as unlikely action heroes. Blade, a half-vampire superhero who first appeared in comic books, was the focus of 3 films from 1998 and in 2002
Wesley Snipes.
and in 2004, which I heard he was a nightmare to deal with in the end.
In the third one, I heard he was, but it was good for the first 2.
He would give people stick-it notes.
Yeah, I heard he was a dick.
He literally wouldn't say a word. Another popular film series, Underworld, 1 through 5, explored an ongoing war between vampires and lichens or werewolves.
Oh, I love the Underworld series. Those were really good. Kate Beckinsale as the vampire, and I just that was a fun series. It had the same weird goth aesthetic that I'm a fan of because only a few movies can pull it off. You have The Crow, if you watch Dark City, and this is one of them where I would group them together. They have the same color palette and the same kind of surreal gothic universe that. It just works for me on film. I mean, assuming the story lends itself to that setting.
Underworld kind of felt like a spin-off to Blade to me.
Really?
In a weird way.
Wow. Yeah, I don't feel that way, but explain it.
I think maybe it's just my, from how I grew up on the films, how I grew up with Blade, and then there's another, vampire movie, and they're fighting werewolves. It just kind of felt like, I don't know, kind of another action.
More of the same.
Another action vampire movie, which isn't bad. I enjoyed them myself, but I'll admit I wasn't the biggest fan. I'm not you know what I mean? I didn't really rewatch them, but I saw them all.
Sure. Well, I don't know if you saw the last one because they skipped one because 2016 was the final one and it was Underworld Blood Wars. So I think that was.
I probably did skip that one.
Yeah.
There is even a tabletop role-playing game called Vampire the Masquerade, first published in 1991. It contributed words such as sire, a vampire's progenitor, and embrace, the act of making a new vampire, to the vampire lexicon, allowed players to create their own vampire worlds and pit wearing vampire factions against one another. Although vampires had by the 20th century largely become creatures of fantasy, urban myths about vampires continued to persist. As late as the early 20th century, some villages in Bulgaria still practice corpse impaling.
Just in case.
You can't be too careful.
They're just staking questions.
Just staking questions. In the 1960s and 70s, a vampire was believed to haunt Highgate Cemetery in London. And in the early 21st century, rumors of vampires caused uproar in Malawi, and England alike. So if you ever find yourself taking a walk at night, make sure to look over your shoulder, because if vampires exist, you might just be their next meal.
Num 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 people? Question mark. I'm Ron Burgundy?
Yes. I do read whatever's on the prompter.
Oh man. So vampires, obviously this is a given, right? But you have to cover the ones that, we're going to cover werewolves and everything. You got to cover everything at some point. And I thought we should wait until episode 38. It felt like the right time to finally cover vampires.
And I know you like that comedy show about vampires.
What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
I know you
good.
like that.
Taika Waititi makes that show based on his film What We Do in the Shadows. Same name, different thing. Great.
And then I think about, games like the Elder Scrolls. Vampirism has been in the Elder Scrolls forever. If you fall asleep in a cave somewhere, you can wake up with vampirism. You'll get bit.
That's awesome. I really like that way. Elder Scrolls the game. So what is that?
So that would be
Skyrim,
Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. In all those games, you can.
It's the same company who does Fallout, isn't it?
Yes, I believe. Yes,
okay,
I believe
great.
it's the same studio. Yeah.
Wonderful. I probably, I never got into those games, and I don't know why, because it's basically the same game, just fantasy setting.
It's basically a Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah.
Fallout.
Well, guys, there you go. That this week's spooky stuff was vampires. We finally did it. We finally covered those suckers.
It feels
Ha-ha!
good. It feels good.
It does. I just, it seemed like a time to get a little saucy, and that brings us to our next segment, which we like to call
Ryan's Disclosure Discussion. It's about aliens and stuff.
The U.S. President Reagan and Gorbachev paused the Cold War for fear of an ET invasion?
Huh?
During the 1985 Geneva summit, President Ronald Reagan and Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev took a private walk, accompanied only by their interpreters.
They held hands and skipped. It was quite saucy.
You're really saucy today.
Saucy. That's the word of the day.
Like,
Yeah. Word of the day, everybody, is saucy. You say it, and everyone goes, yeah!
Reagan saucy. The conversation during this stroll remained undisclosed to the public for years. However, in a 2009 interview with Charlie Rose, a Reagan's Secretary of State George Shultz, Gorbachev shared a surprising revelation. He recounted that Reagan had directly asked him if they could set aside their differences in the event of an alien invasion. According to Jimmy Orr's report for the Christian Science Monitor at the time, Schultz recalled the walk to a nearby cabin during the summit. I wasn't there, Schultz began. But Gorbachev interjected. From the fireside house, President Reagan suddenly said to me, "What would you do if the United States were suddenly attacked by someone from outer space? Would you help us?" I said, "No doubt about it." He said, "We too." So that's interesting, Gorbachev concluded, eliciting much laughter. Despite the lack of an alien invasion in the 1980s, Reagan and Gorbachev's casual agreement remains a fascinating anecdote. Reagan, known for his Star Wars nuclear deterrent plan, was an avid science fiction enthusiast. He grew up reading Edgar Rice Burroughs novels, featuring characters like John Carter of Mars and Tarzan, as reported by Lauren Davis for IO9.
I mean, dude, it makes sense, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I don't know. Aliens attack us, settling our differences with anyone to kind of like, let's all pull together for the human race. We can be racist later. We're all humans
Oh my
here.
God.
I'm just saying.
Like I swear to God, yeah, like get a more global perspective, get that astronaut's perspective of the globe, and yeah, like, and don't steal the space cash. Make sure you give it back.
That is a South Park reference.
Reagan's interest in science fiction occasionally influenced his governance. While in office, he sought counsel from the Citizens Advisory Council on National Space Policy, a think tank composed of astronauts, engineers, and science fiction writers, including Robert Heinlein and Jerry Pournelle. This group played a role in shaping his space policy and contributed to his Star Wars speech.
His space policy. We call it the Spalacy.
And wasn't it George Bush that was like, maybe it would take an invasion from some otherworldly beings to bring us all together?
I thought that was Ronald Reagan, not George Bush.
Was it Reagan who said that?
To be 100% honest, now that you've questioned it, I have no idea. Now I'm questioning everything, Ryan.
I know it was it was either or.
I think I'm gonna go with it was Reagan.
I'm gonna go with it was Bush, just to toss that coin.
I think I'm right.
You could be. He was definitely the most vocal about it. It remains unclear how seriously Reagan pondered the prospect of an alien invasion. Nevertheless, he wasn't the first government official to consider such scenarios. In the 1950s and 60s, U.S. Army engineers devised theoretical weapons for defending hypothetical lunar bases. More recently, Anatoly Zak reported for Popular Mechanics that the Soviet Almaz space station of the 1970s was equipped with a secret space cannon, which was even test fired.
So those are the real space lasers.
Those are the real space lasers. Well, yeah, they've been around for a long time.
Oh man. So this is kind of a cool thing because I believe this is probably true because it could have been a little bit more tongue in cheek. It could have been a little bit more hypothetical. Like maybe Reagan was 100% worried about this. Maybe he was just kind of like throwing it out there. But he's just like, hey, man, you know how aliens probably aren't going to attack, but just like hypothetically, if they do, let's, you're the second world power here. Can we band together?
Yeah, Reagan's supposedly the one that I believe I read a report that he sent a special agent to Area 51. And that's where we kind of got a lot of the leaks of a lot of the things that allegedly went down.
Ugh, crazy.
Reagan was really into it. And I heard that, like, wasn't there like a whole thing with him and his wife getting abducted?
I know there was a few presidents who had stories of like running into aliens. It wouldn't surprise me if Reagan was one of them. We'll do a whole episode. We'll do like presidential's alien encounters. We could because George Washington saw a USO while or was it Christopher Columbus? Either way, someone in a wooden ship crossing the ocean saw a USO in American history.
I heard about that. It was in the north.
Yeah.
It was like where they were like heading to basically Antarctica, right?
I don't know. I think I honestly no. The one I'm talking about is not the Antarctica one, but that just proves my point of there's a lot of stories. We could do a whole big presidential thing.
Mm-hmm. And he wasn't presidential, but then we could talk about Tesla, and he was getting all sorts of signals and shit.
Well, if you do Tesla, then you have to do the whole current war thing. But yeah, I mean that's an episode for another day.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Earthling Entertainment special report. So, the Five Nights at Freddy's sequel release date is going to be December 5th, 2025. Mark those calendars, horror fans. And also, the FX show Shogun not only gets renewed for season 2, but season 2 and 3. That's kind of a crazy thing because it's based on a book, and the book ended at the end of season 1. So they're just gonna kind of like, do their own thing. Could be good, could be bad, who knows? The only thing I know is this has been an Earthling Entertainment special report.
That brings us to our entertainment section of the show, and we have a relatively new segment, which we like to call Music Mumbles. We don't have a jingle yet, but we will. We will. Ryan, take it away.
I shall. Avril Lavigne addresses the conspiracy that she was replaced by a lookalike after dying 21 years ago. Is Avril Lavigne, or Melissa, in the room with us now?
Oh, man.
The Canadian rocker, has addressed her complicated identity on the latest episode of Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast.
Okay, that sounds. I don't want to promote other podcasts. I want people to listen to our podcast, but that's a fun name for a podcast. I got to give them that.
It certainly is a name.
Yeah.
Reacting to a 21-year-old conspiracy theory that suggested Lavigne died in 2003 following the release of her 2002 debut album Let Go, and was replaced by a lookalike named Melissa.
Oh.
All right, so
that's just one theory, by the way. There's another one that she died in it was always the release before an album, but there was 2 or 3 albums that people are like, that's when she died.
Or it was some studio thing, she died because of the record company, something they put her in danger, and so they're covering their tracks.
Dan record company. She was messing with her money, Ryan. She wasn't cooperating with the system. The evil corporations.
Because she was such a rebel, Joe.
She's such a rebel. No, but seriously, all these
she wore ties, Joe. Loosely fitted ties.
Ryan, we were in high school when she came out. I know about the ties.
I'm just saying that what a shocking rebel.
To be fair, that actually did start a style. I saw a lot of people dressing like that.
I think I wore it once or twice. I'm not even gonna lie. I'll go ahead and throw myself out there, but I will still make fun of it.
Yeah, true. Our buddy Jeff, he always had the loose tie, the open tie, and the open collar. Yeah, it was all his thing.
Yeah, but he had the Hot Topic one. They were neon green and black, and they had spider webs and he went all out with that shit.
Fair enough.
He went all out with everything.
All right, so our buddy, cooler than Avril Lavigne.
Way cooler. Way cooler. Rest in peace, buddy.
Actually, I think she dated the dude from Sum 41 too, didn't she? That was a big thing that they did. You don't know?
I don't remember.
I don't know. I did have a huge crush on her, so I actually don't want to make fun of her that much. Maybe she'll be on the show someday. Hey, what's up, Avril? You're cool.
Yeah, hi, Avril.
Anyway, continue.
So, this is a quote from her. I mean, it's just funny to me, the 39-year-old told Cooper. Like, on one end, and everybody's like, oh my God, you look the exact same. You haven't aged a day. Other people are like, there's a conspiracy theory that I'm not me. Avril said it could be worse in the grand scheme of celebrity conspiracy theories, and didn't find rumors about her death to be negative or creepy at all.
Well, that's true because there are people who they eat blood. They drink blood. They kill babies to stay young. There was one where like Tom Hanks is like sacrificing virgins in one of these theories. I'm just saying.
I remember the Tom Hanks weird conspiracy theories and all that.
They were just asking questions, Ryan.
They were just asking questions, and let's face it, they're one big club, and we're not a part of it. We just like to talk about it. We're fans of it. We're just, we don't know. We don't really know what
I can
goes
honestly
on.
say I've never been in an Illuminati party where a bunch of celebrities were sacrificing babies, but
That's good.
I will give it a solid maybe.
It's not on the top of my to-do list,
Ah, fair enough.
but I don't close the door on anything,
You gotta be an optimist in life, man. Who knows? Maybe you make it to 70 and someone's like, all right, you got to do this horrible thing, but you'll go back to the age of 20 and we can give you a new identity and you can do it all over again. Depending on how bad that horrible thing is, that's a deal that a lot of people would probably take. Just saying.
And maybe we're just giving them too much credit. Maybe it's lame. They just had this big wooden owl. They burn it on fire. They chain a little thing.
Oh, dude,
And-
burning an effigy and fucking like a big orgy. That's just normal.
I
That's
was gonna
normal
say, like,
cult stuff. I'm assuming that's what you were going to. Maybe I jumped the shark with it. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? Jump on that shark.
Well, you know what reminds me of it? The 1970s movie, The Wicker Man. Great movie. But if you want to see some like really, really, really good pagan stuff, not necessarily devil worshipping, although the main character is Christian and takes it all as very much devil worshipping. It's a lot of fun. Good horror movie. Jason Lee's in it.
Really?
Dooku.
He's awesome.
Christopher Lee. That's
Yes,
why you were
yeah,
confused.
I was-
You're like, Jason Lee. Isn't that the dude from Kevin Smith movies?
That's
Yeah.
what I was like, how old was he? I was like, wait a minute.
Yes, no. Christopher Lee. Count Dooku.
Okay. Yes.
All right, back to Avril Lavigne. We're really staying on topic on this one.
We're doing great. Cooper, however, disagreed.
So
Avril.
do I.
So this is what he had to say. Avril, this conspiracy theory about you is a little creepy. Come on, Cooper said. But Avril replied, I don't know. It could be worse. Obviously, I am me. It's so dumb. As Cooper continued pressing Lavigne on the topic, even asking her at one point, so is your name Avril Lavigne? The singer-songwriter said she felt that host might actually believe the rumors.
Yeah, she's like, oh shit, man. Come on.
She says, I knew you half believed it. She said, laughing. You haven't aged. I'm staring at you, Cooper said. You literally look the same from when you were younger.
Yeah, it helps having enough money to get a nutritionist and then having enough free time because you have enough money where you don't have to work to like work out every day. Those two things help. Just saying.
This guy could also be hitting on her.
Well, he's probably hitting on her. That's besides the point. What I'm saying is Dwayne The Rock Johnson, that man works out like, I don't know, 3 hours a day, 5 hours a day. He actually said in an interview, I don't want to misquote him, but the point is you can only do that if you have enough money where you don't have to go to work every day.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
just saying.
Well, of course. Yeah, he doesn't, other than acting, yeah, he just invests. And I know he still shows up at wrestling now and then.
But that's my point. When she's saying
What do you mean now and then? I just saw a video of him.
Well, I'm just saying that's my point when a lot of celebrities are like, oh, they haven't aged a day. And I'm like, yes, maybe they have good genes. Totally. But it also could be that they can pay for $5,000 face cream and relax in a warm steam like every day.
Right. And it's kind of like Mac from, what was it? Always Sunny in Philadelphia, how he was able to gain weight and then he lost it and now is like beyond, he's ripped.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's like, and I think he released a thing where he was like, it's so easy to do. All you need to do is have a nutritionist paid by your studio and
Yeah,
a gym
exactly.
that you're forced to go to where you literally have no choice but to do these things every single day, whether or not you like to. He's like, it's so easy.
Yeah.
like-
if you're under contract, it makes it real easy.
Like that.
So
yeah.
I just think that might be Avril Lavigne's, key to her still looking the same. Or, and walk, because of the theme of the episode, Ryan, vampire. I know. She could be the Daywalker.
All right.
Yeah.
In a 2019 interview with Entertainment Weekly, Levine had a similar reaction when asked about the theory. Quote, "It's just a dumb internet rumor, and I'm flabbergasted that people bought into it. Isn't that so weird? It's so dumb," Levine said at the time.
And that's so weird. It's so dumb.
I mean, at least she's consistent. And I look the exact same. On one hand, everyone is like, "Oh my
Vampire.
God, you look the same." And on the other hand, people are like, "Oh my God, she died." The girlfriend performer has in the past spoken about her struggle to survive a bout with Lyme disease in 2015. Quote, "It was that bad. It was that bad that night that I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. I think I was about to die because I had this weird feeling of, whoa. I was like, I'm on a cliff and I'm about to fall and it's dark." Levine told EW of a particularly serious incident prior to her official diagnosis with the disease, which inspired her 2019 album, Head Above Water. "Coming out of it, I felt like I was underwater, drowning, coming up for air. That's when I literally said, God, help me keep my head above water. I wasn't even thinking about music. It just happened. Essentially, people believe she actually died that night. What do you think?" As avid science fiction fans here at Earthling Entertainment, we are going with a genetic clone. Rather than a cyborg replacement, period. Just saying.
Just saying. And to be fair, Ryan sounded weird when he said that because I wrote that part. So I don't know if Ryan's going to go with genetic clone. I kind of spoke for both of us there. And it seems like he has his reservations.
I have a feeling it's probably her. But,
no, genetic clone, Ryan. Come on.
Because I have seen pictures of her, and you could see age. I mean, obviously she's wearing makeup, but you could see signs of aging.
Okay, yeah, but everyone said that. Like, it was Nicolas Cage wasn't aging for a while, and then he got so old that he just aged past it, and they're like, all right, never mind. And I feel like Paul Rudd is on the precipice of that right now. He's just about to cross the line where he's starting to look more his age, and people are going to stop saying that he's immortal.
And I like that I saw a clip from the Deadpool and Wolverine movie where they come up on like a giant Ant-Man head.
Yeah, it's a decapitated Ant-Man head.
Right, and it's
not
the
a
skull.
spoiler because that was in the trailer.
Yep, and he's just like, "Huh, Paul Rudd finally aged," because it was like a skull inside of it.
Nice. All right, guys. So you know what? I think it's time for headlines. You ready for some headlines, Ryan? You got some headlines for us.
I do.
You do?
I do.
Excellent. All right, we're diving in, guys. Here is Earthling Entertainment headlines.
Fallout's Ella Purnell to star in killer squirrels horror comedy movie The Scurry.
Well, it's about goddamn time, Ryan.
Our own generation's The Birds, but with squirrels.
Dude, I am, before we get into this, I am so down, dude. Random animal attack movies. Yes.
This is your thing.
I'm so
You
happy.
like this kind of shit.
Yeah. All right.
All right. 2024. Ella Purnell survived ghouls, robots, cannibals, and underground cults, giant cockroaches, and her own creepy father. Now, she'll have to fight and survive something even stranger. Killer squirrels. The Fallout star has joined the cast of the upcoming squirrel-centric horror comedy movie, The Scurry.
The Scurry. Hold on.
The Scurry. It's gonna be nuts.
Because squirrels.
You're nuts, Joe.
Because squirrels, it's gonna be nuts.
That was a good pun. That was a good pun, Joe.
Thank you. Very punny.
Yes, very punny.
I'm the only one who ever made that connection.
Mm.
Actually, all right, so the best squirrel joke I've ever heard in my entire life was in this movie called Meet the Deedles. And it was a Disney movie. It came out in, I think, 1998, and Paul Walker was in it. Yeah. Anyways, they had a guy. He was a hunting character, and the character's like, I got to hunt for everything. That's how I make my clothes. Even a skinny squirrel can make a fine squirrel jockstrap or something like that. And then the guys say, that makes sense, because squirrels hide nuts. This is a Disney movie. Best squirrel joke ever. All right, continue.
I will counter your squirrel joke with the Emperor's New Groove movie with the little squirrel and the fact that they all had to learn squirrel in like the Squirrel Scouts by the end of it, and I thought that was hilarious.
Excellent.
Just
That's a good poll. I like it.
That was a good one.
All right.
Screen Daily reports Purnell Yellow Jackets has signed on for a leading role in True Brit's film about psychotic rodents. This squirrel horror comedy movie comes from the Phantom of the Open's Craig Roberts and is currently filming in the UK. That's probably why I haven't heard of that in the UK.
Fair enough.
The film originally cast House of the Dragons Olivia Cook. She dropped out because of a reported scheduling conflict, as has Mia McKenna Bruce. Purnell is said to be taking on the role of a park attendant who must use her unique skills and strength to survive a band of killer squirrels.
As
Yes.
one does, Ryan.
Yes, squirrels are in this movie. Hence, the scurry.
The scurry.
Here's the film's official synopsis from True Brit. Two pest controllers are called to an eco cafe in a country park.
It's an eco cafe, dude. Eco.
Thank you. In a eco cafe in a country park to investigate what begins as a routine vermin problem, but as the nightfall approaches, an avalanche of deranged squirrels descend, wreaking revenge and mayhem on the staff and visitors in the park. With many fatalities, the survivors take shelter in the cafe as a freak storm takes out the power and communications, leaving them isolated and under attack. An eclectic mix of survivors include pest controllers, a scully teenager, hypocritical vegans, and a drug dealer. There is only an outside chance of survival. Despite Cook dropping out.
Hold on.
Yes.
Does that not sound like the next Oscar winner?
I'm here for it.
I'm just saying, Ryan, I try to get you to watch some of these really bad movies. There's another one called Bad CGI Gator where they just lean in, and if the gator doesn't render right, they comment on it. It's pretty good.
I like it.
Yeah. All right.
That's the way you got to be sometimes.
The scurrying.
Yeah, I appreciate that kind of honesty in like a B film.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Despite Cook dropping out, House Hightower will still make their presence felt in the film. Rise Eye fans will carry the Hightower banner as a cast member in this squirrel movie.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, which is probably Ryan,
Yes.
what they're saying those are all comments because the girl who was in House of the Dragon dropped out, and they're saying that the banners of that house will still fly because other actors from House of the Dragon, namely the one you just said, are going to be in this movie. So they're just being cheeky.
Rice Iphans.
Yes. So they're just being cheeky.
I like it. Papa Asidu from The Lazarus Project and Antonia Thomas from The Good Doctor will also get in on the horror film with comedic undertones.
Just a couple undertones, though, just a few. You're gonna go, but once in a while, not too much, not too much.
No overtunes.
Yeah, undertones.
Just undertones.
All right, well done.
If they need any help surviving this squirrel attack in this movie, they know who to turn to. Ella Purnell knows how to survive just about anything at this point, especially an off-kilter world of killer monsters.
Ooh, they're just making another Fallout reference. But yeah, come on. I know this isn't your type of movie, but I love it when they do there's still B movies, it's not like this is coming out with $100 million budget from Paramount or something. But aren't you happy when they occasionally do this one?
Yeah, and I really liked her in Fallout, so I would like to follow her career. So I'll give it a shot.
For sure. There's this awesome movie called Black Sheep where there was herds of killer sheep that ate you, and then you got bit, and then there's one guy who was kind of like a sheep werewolf hybrid. It was a super awesome movie.
And there's a lot of actors that are in something super successful, and then they kind of go off into weird films. Elijah Wood did a lot of weird ones, and
well, even Samuel L. Jackson did Snakes on a Plane. I'm just saying.
Well, he's done
maybe that was a bad example because he's done a lot of weird stuff.
I was gonna say he's done isn't he one of the hardest working actors almost of all time? He's done so much.
Well, I mean, it's objective for sure, but I'd say he's in the running for talking about it. Yeah, he does a lot of movies.
Fuck yeah. So maybe that was a bad example, Joe. Shame on you. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm just gonna go over there and just cry in my corner of darkness. We actually have in the office this one corner we purposely shade, and it's to cry in. It was because of an intern named Jim. He was an AI, but we had to fire him because he was god awful to listen to. And since this is an audio medium, what are you gonna do?
Jim was a punk ass bitch. Just saying.
He was. And now the story of Jim is closed. So those of you who've been watching us or listening to us since the beginning, there's 3 parts in the Jim saga, and now it is closed, and you'll never hear of Jim again. So no one will ever have to ask whatever happened to that stupid bit you did early on. It's dead. That's what happened. All right, moving on.
As it shall be.
All right, so guys, I liked the headline. I'm excited for that movie, and I'm also excited for a show coming out. Our headline number 2, check us out.
Agatha All Along sets September premiere date on Disney+.
It's Agatha All Along.
The WandaVision spin-off, Agatha All Along, will debut with 2 episodes on September 18th. The announcement was made during the Disney upfront presentation to advertisers in New York on Tuesday. Series star Catherine Hahn took the stage with co-stars Joe Locke and Patty Lupone, who confirmed the series title after a number of changes. The show was first called Agatha, House of Harkness. The title appeared to change to Agatha, Coven of Chaos, kind of like that, by July 2022, and then to Agatha, Darkhold Diaries in September 2023. They really can't decide.
Well, no, so I think they're gonna mention it, but it's the whole idea that in the WandaVision they had a song called Agatha All Along, and it's kind of funny because it gave you all these titles, and then at the end of it, it's been Agatha All Along. I think they were fucking with us.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think it was a clever marketing joke, right?
Right.
Like, you know,
That sounds right.
because you have a new headline every time you would change a name. Someone would do a story about it.
It's brilliant, actually. Variety exclusively reported that the show was in the works back in October 2021. The cast also includes Aubrey Plaza, Sashir Zamata.
Aubrey Plaza, I love, man. Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I love her so much.
Yeah.
Ali An and Deborah Jo Rupp. The series picks up after the events of WandaVision, in which Agatha Harkness, Han, was left powerless thanks to the Scarlet Witch, a.k.a. Wanda Maximoff, who was played by Elizabeth Olsen.
Yes.
The series will see her gather some unlikely allies as she seeks to regain her powers. The Marvel Studios series hails from Jack Schaefer, the head writer and executive producer on WandaVision.
Which makes sense. And I hope they take some of the stuff stylistically, because WandaVision, every episode up until when they gave the game away, kind of was parodying a style of sitcom. So since this is all witch-based, it would just be cool if it had like a Bewitched vibe. That was just me. I don't know.
That's not a bad idea. She returns in that role for Agatha All Along. Kevin Feige, Luis D. Esposito,
Yeah.
Victoria Alonso, and Mary Livanos, and Brad Winderbaum also executive produce.
Yes.
Wow, that's quite a list.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm sorry. I realized that because normally I trimmed down the names because the names are always a pain in the butt. So I apologize. That's my
I think
bad.
I did that pretty good.
Yeah,
you
you did.
definitely, you taught me how to say Feige. I didn't know that until this podcast.
Fair enough. Kevin Feige is the head of all of Marvel, so it's a name that
Word.
you're going to hear more often than not.
Right.
Yes.
So it's like executive producers, assemble. WandaVision, the first live-action MCU show on Disney Plus, racked up 23 Emmy nominations upon its debut, including one for Han for Best Supporting Actress in a Limited Series.
It was a really good show. I would argue it was the best Marvel show that they've ever done. No matter how you feel about any of the ones that came out, that's just what I would say. Is it was their first, it was their best. Loki would be second in my mind.
I never watched it.
You never watched it?
I should.
You are missing out, honestly, because Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, how she was a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this show kind of tells you why that happened.
That makes sense. They sort of filled us in, though. Like, I understood why she was pissed.
Yeah, it's definitely much better, but watching that show, just saying, and that was their mistake. I mean, that you can't make you can't make a movie and then have homework for people where it's like, hey guys, before you see this movie, go watch this whole show. It was because they were trying to get people to watch Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should make things to try to, rope people into having to watch it because they like this other thing. I don't know. But WandaVision, great show.
I remember them, if I remember right, back then, I remember they released things that kind of explained what WandaVision was. And so it did have me prepped for it because by that point, they were like, well, if you haven't seen it, you probably won't by the time the movie comes out. Now we want you to go see this movie. So I remember them releasing kind of like synopsis and stuff like that so that it was easier to,
Fair enough. I will say that watching WandaVision, though, is a hell of a ride and totally worth it.
Oh, I will.
Especially now that this is going to be the sequel. If you want to watch Agatha All Along, it really does inform this show, I imagine. I haven't seen Agatha All Along, but I have to imagine it is a direct sequel.
I need something new to watch, so I'll do it.
Yeah, it's only like what? It's Marvel, so it's like what, 6 or 8 episodes? You're fine.
Yeah, it's not much. Yeah. One of the show's wins came in from Best Original Music and Lyrics category for the song Agatha All Along.
Agatha All Along.
Which was used as part of the reveal that Han's character was not who she appeared to be.
Yeah, she was a usurper. A usurper, I say. No, but she's a big spoiler. She's a witch, and she just seems like a friend, and she's not a friend. She's a villain. It was Agatha all along.
I'll be damned. I'll be damned.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for this because I didn't know if it would actually happen. They've been talking about it for a while, and then there was silence for a while, and I'm pretty sure just like Daredevil, there's been reshoots, there's been a lot going on, and there's just some times when something is announced, and you're just like, wow, are we ever going to see this? For instance, our headline number 3 is about a show that was supposedly coming out and is not now. So, grab your tissues if you're a big Spider-Man fan because you're going to cry on this one.
Well, unfortunately, if it has anything to do with that last Spider-Man movie, which was like, they had like all...
Madam Web?
Yeah, I heard that just did really, really bad.
It did do really, really bad. Although, funny side note, it's the top movie on Netflix.
I think it's because
people are morbidly curious.
Because I'll admit, I want to see it because I heard it so bad. I'm like, how could it be that bad? Because I'm weird. I thought Green Lantern was good. Like a lot of movies that people hated, I enjoyed. So maybe I might like it.
Maybe you will. I would be surprised if you did from what I know of it, but maybe you will. You know what, Ryan? I want to hear your thoughts on the show. So after you watch Madam Web, we're going to have a segment called Ryan Talks Madam Web.
Now, is there homework for that one as well? Isn't there? Don't you have to watch like the Miss Marvel?
No, just watch Madam Web. What you're thinking of is the Marvels.
Yeah, because I have no clue.
Okay, well, that's a different thing. We're going to have Ryan watch his Madam Web. Oh my God,
I'm so behind. There's so much, like, they throw so much at the wall.
Well, to be fair, those are two different studios. One is Marvel, one is Sony. And they're actually not connected at all in the same universe.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. I officially don't know what the hell's going on anymore.
Okay, so here, let me put it this way. Anything Spider-Man is not related to the Marvel Universe unless you see Tom Holland.
For now. Right.
For now.
But while yeah. Okay. All right. All
right, so anyways, guys, headline number 3, an unfortunate Spider-Man project that was not gonna happen. So, wah, wah, wah.
Well, now they're dead. Anyways, Silk Spider Society live action series no longer moving forward at Amazon.
Which is a shame because Silk is a pretty cool character. Came out in the mid 2000s, so a lot of people don't know about it, but it was one of those spider, it's part of the spider family. I think could be wrong, but I think was bit on the same day as Peter Parker and has its own story. And it's a female-led spider hero.
All right. The Silk Spider Society live-action series has been scrapped at Amazon. The show was originally greenlit in November of 2022 in a deal with Sony Pictures Television to develop a suite of shows based on Marvel characters that Sony controls.
We still get Spider-Man Noir with Nicolas Cage, so hey, that's good.
That is great. It was meant to debut on the MGM Plus linear channel domestically before a global launch on Prime Video. The Walking Dead alum Angela Kang was on board as executive producer and showrunner, with Kang also signing a multi-year overall deal with Amazon MGM Studios in the process. Kang will continue under that deal. Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Amy Pascal.
Amy Pascal. Yeah, she's the head of Sony.
Nice.
She's the Kevin Feige of the Spider-Man universe.
She married to
Pedro Pascal?
Pedro?
No.
No.
I guess I don't know, but I'm almost 100% positive no.
So not related.
Yeah.
Okay. We're also executive producers on the series. According to an individual with knowledge of the situation, Sony will try to shop the series to other buyers. And I think that they would have success that way.
They might, but I mean, they have to be pretty far in development if you're trying to shop the series. I don't know. Is it complete? Have they already shot it? You know what I mean? Like, you have to be pretty deep in to try to shop the series. Netflix might be a buyer. The problem isn't finding someone who's interested. The problem is finding someone who's going to pay the amount of money you need them to pay because of how much money you've already spent.
Well, it's like, what the heck is Peacock up to? Like,
I like Peacock, man. Peacock's owned by NBC Universal, so they got all the sci-fi
I'll
channel
admit,
stuff. I like Peacock.
I like it. And
Terrible
it's cheap.
fucking name.
And it's cheap.
Yeah, it should be Peacock Plus. Actually, be Universal Plus. Which is everything should be plus.
I pay for it with ads. Like, I don't care. So I think it's only like $6 a month. So yeah.
I pay for it with ads too.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
They're not that bad.
Well, we grew up with commercials. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, I agree. Like, I think we're like the last ones that have that kind of patience to just tune it out.
It's fine. It gives me time to like check my phone, grab something to drink, pee. Not much more than that, but you can urinate.
And if I have to listen, like, I hate it when they repeat ads, like when a company will pay for repeat ads over and over. I make it a point, like, I'm like, if I am ever in the market for that kind of thing, I will make sure to go to someone else. Because you made me listen to your ad annoyingly so many times that I refuse to give you my money.
That
is my payback.
Well, you're talking about him, Ryan. So they got it in your
Not
head.
even talking about anybody. About who? Green Brain Comics.
Green
Brain Comics.
Go see it in Dearborn, Michigan. All right, continue, Ryan. About Silk.
It has been reported earlier in the year by The Ankler that Amazon had shut down the writer's room for Silk.
Not a good idea.
With the writing
if you want
staff
a show.
released to pursue other work. Though Kang remained attached to the project as showrunner. The Ankler reported at the time that Amazon wanted to refocus the show with a more male-skewing audience in mind, which would make sense given the company's success with shows like The Boys and the spin-off Gen 5, Fallout, Reacher, and Jack Ryan.
Okay, so what does that mean? A more male focus. So did that mean they were trying to make the character more sexy, or were they trying to bring in a second lead who was a male?
Right. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. And
or are they trying to up the action to appeal not just to the sex, but the violence aspect of what they think males want? Well, don't misunderstand. I love sex and violence as much as anyone else. I'm just saying.
Right, but I also think they're missing their mark here. Obviously, they know the numbers better than I do, I guess. But Jack Reacher, all the people who are into that show are women because they all think he is hot.
I don't know if that's entirely true. It's got the whole military. Jack Reacher is based on the book series. They like all the like A Hunt for Red October and was it Some of All Fears? Like all those movies. They're based on the Jack Reacher character. So yeah, I think it's also older people who are fans of the character because those books came out I think the 80s and 90s.
That could be right, Joe. That could be right.
That's your Sean Connery.
That's my Sean Connery.
All right, I want
The Hunt for the Red October.
I want you to be Draco from Dragonheart. Go.
I can't.
No, the stars, Bowen. The stars.
I don't even know if I haven't watched that. I think I'd butcher it, and I can't do that to Draco.
Oh my God, I love Dragonheart. Just
too.
As a side note, there are 5 Dragonhearts movies.
How many dragons do you know?
Thank you. That's all I want.
That's all I could do. That's all I could do.
All right, good. Dennis Quaid.
Dude.
Bowen.
Bowen.
Yes.
Oh my God! Like now I'm getting like a flood of memories. I loved that movie when I was a kid. That was like one of the big movies.
Yeah, man, I was all about Dragonheart, and I think I like tried to bring my friends knew it way more than they were. Like I was like buying dragon toys, and I was all about dragons. And I remember I got my buddy a book for one of his birthdays, and it was kind of like an artsy book, but it was all these artsy dragon books. And this kid's like, I didn't want a book. We're like 12. What the hell's wrong with you?
You were a knight of the old code.
Exactly. All right. Now, anyways, How do we talk about Dragonheart?
I don't know,
to the
but I'm
canceled
but
Amazon
I'm here
series,
for-
Silk.
the no, because the Hunt for the Red October has to do with Jack Reacher. That's why.
The stars, boy.
The
The stars.
So you wish to call me dragon in another language?
No, another tongue.
Thank you. Yes. The official log line released at the time of the series order stated that the show would follow City Moon, described as a Korean American woman bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker.
Oh, nailed it! I didn't even read
The
that.
same spider.
Yeah, the same freaking spider. Carl.
Dude,
Back to
Carl,
naming shit like last episode.
Carl the
Carl the
spider.
spider.
Carl the radioactive spider.
It's Carl, dun dun, the radioactive spider.
Giving me powers. As she escapes imprisonment and searches for her missing family on her way to becoming the superhero known as Silk.
Da, 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 da. And actually, he's a really cool character. So if you are interested at all, obviously she premiered in the comics and she has this great run, and you should check it out. Yeah, if you want your Spider-Man to have a little bit more of a different origin story, you know what I mean? Because ultimately there's variations, but anytime they do this, it's like they have the same powers. It's like Aquaman 2 or his son is the same powers as Aquaman, except for like one or two differences. Same with everybody. Superman, Jonathan Kent, he's still Superman.
Right. And
I
then,
don't know.
and then you've got Batman and Robin, where it's like he just kind of taught him how to kick ass and use gadgets.
Yeah, I guess the difference is Robin can he can do more gymnastic-y jumps and stuff. Right?
He's got more agility.
I'm a
than
circus
Batman,
boy.
Where Batman has got more like constitution.
I'm a circus boy.
Like, yes, he was. And
Ah.
I still think that we're long overdue for like a good Robin movie.
I think the chance, if you're going to get a Robin movie, it's going to be a Nightwing movie. You know, and they might have flashbacks in the film of him as Robin to like inform the story that we're watching, but that's what I think.
I just think we're overdue. We've
all right.
heard, you know what I mean? Like, let's do another hero movie. That
We could do a
know,
Jason Todd movie. I think he's the one who gets beat to death by a crowbar. It'll have a hell of an ending.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you didn't know about that?
No.
Okay, so long story short, in the late 80s, DC had Jason Todd beaten to death with a crowbar by the Joker, and they actually had it at a cliffhanger, and they asked they were like, hey, readers, should we kill him or should we keep him alive? And people voted to kill him. And then, you know, later on, to be fair, this guy turns into the Red Hood. So if you hear the character the Red Hood, that's like he survived and became the Red Hood, which is a crime boss, and he's a cool Batman villain. There's a lot of things there, man.
Well, I mean,
And
Batman's-
Damian Wayne, what about that? What about that, Robin, Ryan?
No idea, dude. Like, there's so much, right? Like, it's been written in comments since I feel like the dawn of frickin' time. Like,
The grandson of Ra's al Ghul, Damian Wayne.
oh,
Yeah. Talia, his daughter, and Batman have a kid, and that's his only genetic son, Damian Wayne.
here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
The stars, boy. The stars.
Of course, we both know
All
I
right,
have
all
to
right,
kill you.
Yeah, we gotta kill you. All right, guys. So, you know what? Number 4, headline number 4, which is, are you a game show fan? Because the problem is I'm not a huge game show fan. The game shows that I liked when I was a kid were on Comedy Central, and there were things like Win Ben Stein's Money.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my God, I forgot about that show.
Yeah, and then there was my favorite game show ever was called Beat the Geeks. And they had like 4 or 5 geeks, and they were like the movie geek and the music geek, and they would ask these pop culture questions. And I don't remember exactly how it worked, but you had to get yours right, and then the geek got like an insanely hard question, and they had to get it right, and it was like a battle. I don't really remember the basics, but I love the show. And apparently they're doing that again in a completely different way. They're not doing that at all, but at least it's pop culture. Ryan, continue.
My one early memory of game shows was like the no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, stop, because it had the cool cartoon. And
Yeah.
they got the whammy.
Yeah, that was Press Your Luck was the original version of that show. And you know, it's funny, in the 80s, there was a guy who memorized the pattern. So he was able to not cheat, but it was like, kind of counting cards. He was able to get on, and he won a ridiculous amount of money. And it was because there was only 5 patterns, and using like VHSs of the reruns of the show, watched it and learned it.
Smart.
Yeah, so
I
it's
think I did hear about that.
well, they're making a movie about it. It's the guy who's going to be playing Chris Farley in the biopic, something Howard, Tom Walter Howard. I got to look that up. I apologize, but he is. So yeah, it's going to be about that.
I'm excited for the Chris Farley biopic.
I know.
Good mention.
Yeah. Also, when they remade that show, when they brought that that game show back, they changed the name to Whammy because that's what happened when you accidentally hit the cartoon character. You lost all your money, and it was like Whammy.
I just have an early memory of hoping for the Whammy because I wanted to see the cartoon when I was a kid. You know,
Fair enough.
I was born in '87. Like, how long did that show run?
Well,
Like,
it was mid '80s, maybe even early '70s, I think. But then when they brought it back, it was early 2000s. So you may have seen that in like high school.
and then of course after that, it's just Bob Barker. Like that's.
Well, you know what? Are you a fan of Jeopardy at all?
Jeopardy was on in my household now and then, but it just made me feel dumb.
It feels a bit stale, right? Well, maybe this new one won't. So our headline number 4 is
Pop Culture Jeopardy spinoff coming to Prime Video.
what?
It's
I'm excited, genuinely. Yeah.
It's always thrilling for pop culture fans such as ourselves to see a pop culture question come up on Jeopardy. A whole Marvel category? What a delight. But,
What a delight!
but now trivia and pop culture will permanently connect in a new Jeopardy spinoff coming to Prime Video. This Jeopardy will feature all pop culture questions and categories all the time. And handily enough, this new spinoff is titled Pop Culture Jeopardy.
They're not trying to bury the lead, people. Here's what it is. Hopefully they deliver what they promise.
We guess there's no need to ask, what is Pop Culture Jeopardy?
Exactly.
A release shares more about the new Pop Culture Jeopardy spinoff.
How many times are they going to say Pop Culture
I
Jeopardy?
don't know. Like,
Pop Culture Jeopardy.
Chopper 5.
Chopper 5.
It releases Pop Culture Jeopardy. It said it again in a brand new twist on the classic quiz show's answer and question format that
Pop
combines
Culture Jeopardy! The academic rigor of
Jeopardy with the excitement and unpredictability of pop culture. Contestants playing in teams of 3 will need to be experts in categories from alternative rock to the Avengers, Broadway to MMA, Gen Z to Zendaya, as they compete in a tournament-style event for the grand prize and ultimate bragging rights.
I actually will watch this. This seems like this would interest me a lot.
I feel like I would know half of it. Like,
That's
once
fine.
they
That's
talk
better
about-
than normal Jeopardy, Ryan.
Right, and because I feel like the movie and series stuff, you and I would do well, but I feel like when they go to music, it's just going to be obviously like all I know is like really metal.
Fair
heavy.
enough.
You know that's kind of my niche. I can't help myself. Like I
You
know
have to
some
imagine
stuff.
that this is going to be like top 100 hits kind of thing.
Exactly. So it's probably going to be like, what was the new blah blah blah? Yeah, Billboard hit or what have you. Like, and I'm going to be like, I don't know. Pop Culture Jeopardy is the first time the franchise will find itself on a streaming service. Needless to say, we expect our readers to excel at this game. Pop Culture Jeopardy is coming soon. A host has not yet been revealed. For those wanting to compete on the series, information regarding the contestant application process will be available soon.
And that comes to us from Nerdist News. So when they say our readers, that's Nerdist News saying their readers. Just so you know. We have listeners.
And our listeners.
That's true. All right, guys. Now it's time for our final headline, and it's about everyone's favorite film franchise,
Good Lord.
The Fast and the Furious. So, for those of you who don't know, The Fast and the Furious, Fast X, was the last movie. It was number 10, and it was a to be continued, and is supposed to end the franchise. Well, it cost an amazing $350 million, being one of the most, if not the most, expensive film ever made. Keep in mind, guys, that's almost $100 million more than the Avengers. Okay, and long story short, it flopped. It did not do well. So what do? It's a beginning of a 2-parter. It's supposed to end the franchise. Are you going to do what they did with the Divergent series and just literally have a bunch of movies that don't have an ending? Because that would be weird. Well, we may have found out what they're going to do. Universal is basically saying, yeah, you guys are going to get your last movie, but it's going to cost way less money. Here we go. Headline number 5.
And may I say before I begin, I remember you and I sitting in theater for technically the first review we ever did
Ninja Turtles.
was the Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, and one of the previews, one of the trailers was for Furious X or
I
whatever.
think it was actually for when we saw the Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I'm with you.
Oh, you're
yeah.
right. It could have been that. And I remember when it was done, I could not, you and I both, could not contain our laughter. It just looked so silly. It looked really, really bad.
Well, when the last movie, they go to space. Like, how do you top that? We drive down the Hoover Dam.
I just remember when it was done, I was dying because it was hilariously bad looking. But that's just my opinion.
Well, maybe you'll like the next one, Fast X Part 2 or Fast 11. Either way, here you go, Ryan.
Fast and Furious franchise could speed back to the streets in the future. Just when you thought that the Fast and the Furious stories might be running out of gas, there is still something in the tank after all.
Oh, bunny. Oh, they did it. They made a car joke.
That was good. And
Oh, I'm all for it.
somehow,
Boy, howdy.
this street racing franchise is 10 movies in, with an 11th installment coming in 2026.
There are 11 movies if you count the spin-off film, Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. Just saying. Continue.
Thank you, Joe. It has taken a bizarre journey that is truly for the film history books. Who ever thought they would end up in literal space?
Number 9, people.
But as NBC Universal Studio chief Donna Langley told Variety, the Fast and Furious franchise will likely continue with other movies or even a spin-off series of some sort. Vin Diesel hints about a possible 12th movie seem to be accurate.
Yeah, no, that was because on the red carpet, when, this is before it flopped, mind you, he hinted that, hey, maybe we'll develop Fast X to be a trilogy instead of just a two-parter. Ha 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 ha. Then the movie flopped. Yeah, that's not happening. But there was going to be kind of a sequel to Hobbs and Shaw brings back The Rock, and that's kind of like the spin-off movie. So yeah, maybe there will be 12.
Yeah, but I thought The Rock was like totally done with this stuff.
Well, he was in a post-credit scene in number 10, bud, so he's back.
Oh my gosh. Well, good for them that they were able to patch things up, because I remember reading a story.
I don't think they patched things up, Ryan.
Oh, well, good.
Good.
More. I heard Vin Diesel was kind of in the wrong.
Well, recently there's
situation.
recently there's been a bunch of reports of The Rock kind of having similar behavior.
Interesting.
Yeah. Fast and Furious.
Where we go next is a question, Langley said. We may pivot another time and bring it back to the streets of LA and maybe make it more of an intimate story. She also heavily hinted that the universe is also well suited for a TV ride. Perhaps handling some new characters, the keys, and oh my god, I'm sorry, I missed this reference. Perhaps handing some new characters the keys and speeding off in a fresh direction is what this franchise needs. All the puns in this.
But basically they're saying, we'll take anything. Give us a low budget sequel. Give us a film. They're freaking out. They're like, oh shit, it lost so much money. Fast 10 did not turn out well.
And I mean, this doesn't, I don't know. I feel like the fans can smell the desperation too, and that's not good.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Brian's son, Jack, or maybe Dom and Letty's son, Brian, could be the next one in the driver's seat. Or going to a time period in the past to explore street racing could also work.
Oh my God, can you imagine like a soap opera, like All Days of Their Lives with young Dom? He's just like working on cars and he turns towards the camera and they're like, Vin Diesel. He's got to still play his voice like Groot, but you get a completely different like young person to play him. They had flashbacks in Fast 9 because they brought back his brother. Well, they didn't bring him back. They made up a character and acted like he was there the whole time.
See, I don't know these stories, man.
Dude, and then they like kill Gal Gadot. All right, spoilers for the whole Fast franchise. They kill Gal Gadot in like number 5, and then the end of 10, she like pops out of a submarine and like nods like, I've been here the whole time. And you're just like, what the fuck's happening? Oh, I'm all for it, man. This show is wacky. It's like watching a 1960s James Bond, where it's just like that pen shoots out a hook tether that will make you be able to rappel up a mountain. You're like, yeah, all right, sure it does.
It makes sense they went down that road.
Oh, I don't know if you should go down that road.
They did. Either way, everyone who is annoyed that the Fast and the Furious franchise will keep going might as well get over it. Except that family is everything and will never, ever go away.
Yeah, so Fast and franchise friends. There you go.
Fast in the franchise.
Fast in the franchise. Well, you know what, man? I think that was a pretty dope episode.
Hell yeah.
That was our last headline. We're going to wrap it up because we're running a little tight on time. I will say that, hey, guys, if you like the show, I always say that you should download the episodes, and that is absolutely true. But, not only download the episodes, share it with a friend. If there's anyone you know who likes this kind of stuff, tell them about it. Let's get the word out. I just think it'd be fun to get a little bit more of a community going on, because I've started to reach out to some fans and we've had really good conversations, suggestions for future segments, and it's been a lot of fun. So I want to keep that train rolling.
Hell yeah. Hit us up on Facebook if you have any questions, if there's anything you want us to talk about. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate all the downloads. Yeah, download wherever you stream your podcast. We're on everything.
Downloads, for some reason, help us in the algorithm the best. So download the episodes. And from all of us here at Earthling Entertainment, say ya. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
So long. Farewell, Havidas, and goodbye.
Oh my goodness.
No.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Woo! Fuck.